account and your child's college fund, but you should at least make it part of your monthly budget. Start getting a couple items each month. If you look at the amount of money you spend on these other insurances through the year, survival insurance will be considerably cheaper.
So that was a 5-minute excerpt from his book, narrated by Jim Pelletier. And I highly recommend getting this book on both the physical copy, digital copy, and the audiobook. I've listened to it, and I actually need to go back and listen to it again. It's very well worth getting. And one of the things that he stresses in the book is he talks about the lone wolf survivalist. And if you think that you're going to survive as a lone wolf with a 90-pound ruck on your back and an AR-15, you are sorely, sorely mistaken. So that brings me to another point, something I haven't really talked about, and hopefully maybe in the future I can get him to come on the show with me. He's got his own podcast, and his name is Forrest Garvin, and he runs something called Prepardness. And you may or may not have heard of it, but Prepardness, whatever you may think of getting a group together, it's a good way to be able to find local people. They have meetups all over the country. I host a meetup in Washington, North Carolina on the second Tuesday of every month. And so basically I'm pretty much the city leader for Washington, North Carolina, Greenville, Rocky Mount. That's what it's listed under. I highly recommend looking up Prepardness. Go to meetup.com and look up Prepardness meetups. They're national now. They used to be called Carolina Prepper Network, and they have since changed and gone nationwide. Forrest is a passionate guy. I think he really believes in what he's doing. And so, that's that. It's well worth looking into. He has partnered with a bunch of different people. Sam Culper, John Jacob Schmidt, Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy, Brian Duff of Mind for Survival. There's a couple more I just can't recall right off the top of my head. So he's gotten in with a lot of good people. And he interviewed Jonathon Hollerman on this book. And that really enticed me to go get the audio version and listen to it while I was in a tractor. As I do a lot of times. Yeah, I listen to a lot of audiobooks and a lot of podcasts when I'm in the tractor. And one of the things that really struck me about Jonathon Hollerman is that although throughout the book he doesn't really talk about his Christianity, except for in one of the last chapters of the book where he really covers prepping from a biblical standpoint. And as a Christian, I think that he lays out a pretty good case. And to quote 1 Timothy 5:8, anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. And I believe that if you are the head of your household, if you are the man that is in charge of taking care of your family, if you're the woman that is in charge of taking care of your family, it is your responsibility. Your responsibility. No one else's. The government is not coming to help you. You have to be responsible for yourself. It is not hard to start your own food pantry. With very little money, with a little bit of here and a little bit of there, a few extra things of pasta, rice is cheap, beans are cheap, Mylar bags are really not that expensive, oxygen absorbers are not very expensive. Go to the Prepper Broadcasting Network, and James Walton has done several videos, several podcasts on food preparation. There is an abundance of information out there, not just the ones that I've talked about, but there are literally hundreds of websites, podcasts, YouTube videos. If you search long-term food storage or DIY long-term food storage, you will be able to find information about putting food away. And you need to do it. Just do it. You've got to get it done, because if you're not responsible for yourself, then you're, like I said, nobody's coming to help. So the last thing we're going to do is get into the Gear Whore's Gear Closet. And this week, I'm going to talk about something that I have a passion for, and I'm not going to cover the topic necessarily, but I'm going to talk about my ham radio. I got into ham radio after listening to John Jacob Schmidt for a while, and Mark Goodwin recommends it, and I just saw the utility of ham radio and the possibilities that things that you can do in a post SHTF or grid down situation, in a situation where the power lines are down, maybe, or if the power goes out, the generators can only last for so long. The people down in Wilmington, North Carolina, figured that out, and once the generators start running out of fuel, communication starts going down. So that scenario just reinforced the idea of getting my ham radio license. I am a general class ham. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the Yaesu 857D. It's a great radio. It's been around for a long time. It is an all-band radio. So it will cover VHF, UHF, and HF, high frequency. It weighs about 4.6 pounds, and if you're running at 13.8 volts, which is what you would run off of a vehicle or a power supply powered from an AC to DC converter, you're looking at 100 watts on HF, 50 watts on 2 meter or VHF, and 20 watts on 70 centimeter, which is UHF. It's a very capable all-mode radio. It really, really is. Current retail price for this radio at both Gigaparts and DX Engineering is $749.95. It is not a cheap piece of kit. So when I first got into ham radio, this was the radio that a lot of people recommended just because of the all mode, all band. And I thought that's what I needed. So that's what I got. And hindsight being 2020, having the VHF and UHF capabilities, in my opinion, are not worth the extra expense. Now, I'm sure there are other experts out there, because I am not an expert by any means. I'm just going off of my experience. But having UHF, VHF, and the HF all in one radio, I think really limits you, because if you're in VHF, UHF mode, you cannot use the HF. And if you're in HF, you can't use the VHF or UHF. In my opinion, you would be better off purchasing something like the FT891, which is a little bit more modern radio and currently retails for about $600. I think $599 is what I looked up at Gigaparts. I think Gigaparts and DX Engineering had it for that price. And personally, I think having a separate HF radio and then having a separate UHF, VHF, something like my mobile radio, the FT7800, which has been replaced with, I believe, the 7900. But there's a wide variety of very capable multi-band radios, the UHF, VHF. I just think it would be advantageous to have separate radios altogether. That way, if you're in a situation, you can monitor VHF, UHF, which is more local, and be able to monitor HF, which I currently mainly monitor HF digital signals. And I'll do a podcast on that a little bit later on, about ham radio altogether. So, I mean, really, that covers it for this episode. I really hope that I'm conveying information. I really am trying to live up to the Dope Farm idea, although I know it's not perfect, but I'm just trying to convey some of the information about stuff that I have personal experience with. I will go into the weed of the week stuff. I may not necessarily have experience with eating and preparing these things, but I want to put it out there because it's out there and you should know it, because in a grid down situation, long term, being knowledgeable about wild edibles and having the tools, the books, the knowledge of what's out there, I think is invaluable, because knowledge is free. It doesn't cost you anything. I mean, it costs you the price of a book, but I'm telling you, it's well worth the effort and the time that it takes to gain the knowledge. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of stuff out there that is available, both edible, that'll fill your belly, and there's a lot of stuff out there that is medicinal, that can help cure simple things. I'm not talking about curing cancer and, massive GSWs. If you get shot in a grid down situation, I'm sorry, but you're probably going to die. Without modern medical care, there's a good chance that you're not going to make it. And so anyway, having said all that, I want to close it out. I want to say, I hope that y'all had a great break. Don't forget what the previous holiday was about, the Memorial Day holiday. It's about the people that have not come, that never came home. They went to war, or they were serving their country and they died in service to their country. So remember those that have fallen. I'm not going to rehash it because I did it on the episode 4. So having said that, I want to say God bless you and God bless America. And I look forward to your input, your feedback. And if you have anything, any information that you would like to share, please contact me. And if you have any interest on coming on the show or doing an interview with me, please let me know. I would be more than happy to set you up, get you on Skype, and record an episode with you. So, good night, God bless, and I hope to talk to you soon.